Welcome to MMA Fancast. Welcome back to everyone who's already a subscriber to the show. If you're not already a YouTube subscriber, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews, including the one coming at you right now. The Houndog, Anthony Hogeback. Welcome back to the show. You've been on the show on and off, I'd say, for pretty much most of your career. You just had a fantastic standing guillotine, power guillotine, round one submission in Kentucky last night. Thanks. I think you just got back into town, so thanks so much for jumping on hours after it. Before we get to the fight itself, what was that trip out and back like? I know you also went with Luke Martin and some coaches out of Stout. What was that trip like for you being a road warrior there?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, honestly. It was like 4.5 hours each way. And since me and Luke were on the same card, he was already going down there. And then I had people come in after, so I just asked if I could hitch a ride with him down there, and he was cool with it. So yeah, me and Luke were getting ready for the fight, like, because we both knew we were on the same card, so we were just kind of together for the last, I can't remember how many weeks. So we were just been palling around being boys. So it made sense to go out there together. And then yeah, last night I got back at like 6 a.m. or this morning at like 6 a.m. So it was a lot of driving.
It is a lot of driving. Well worth it when you get a great win. You got a stoppage by submission in round one. He got a stoppage by TKO. I'm honored that you both came on the show under 24 hours, right around 24 hours after your fight. For people that know Stout, you should watch both the videos. I forgot to say in the intro that you are the Art of War amateur bantamweight champ. You were fighting at featherweight. What's it like? Did you feel good at 145? Do you think 135 is your home? What's your thought on the weight class?
Yeah, like the weight class is cool. 145 is like really, it's nice for my lifestyle. You know, I don't have to like worry about every little thing I'm eating. As long as I'm training hard and like not eating like, you know, gluttonously, like I'm good. So the 45 is nice for like everyday life, but I do like 35 because there's no way I make weight at 135 if I'm not in like crazy shape. So like it kind of forces me to be in like really, really good shape. Not that I wasn't in good shape, but yeah, I don't mind 45 because I get to eat more, so it's cool. But I do think 35 is like probably my home, you know, especially as a professional.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mentioned that you train out of Stout,
Mhm.
and you've also trained out of Bower House before, but now you're mainly up in the city with Stout. But
Yeah.
you've got Luke Martin. I believe he fights at 135. The former, or is he a little heavier?
He's a 145er.
145. Okay,
Yeah.
he's 145. Lucas Siebert is pretty much always a 35. He did have a belt championship win at 45, but he's a pro. So really, you see yourself as being a pro at 135 along with Luke Siebert. I think that makes, anytime you can have multiple high-level amateurs, pros, around the same weight class. Obviously, you and Luke Martin, he's one weight class up. You and Luke Siebert right there. I mean, do you think that trio is really gonna kind of help all of you as you develop?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, you know, me and Lucas have been training together like probably for over a year now. And you know, we see each other a lot, and I think that helps. You know, when we're in the cage, we're like, okay, you know, we train with like hard dudes like Luke Martin, Tim Bailey, Lucas, all within the 35 weight class or 45. So you know, we see each other a lot, and we're all like, you know, right at the top of that amateur level and beginning to be a pro. So, you know, I know other gyms don't have that. If they do have it, it's not within the same weight class typically. So, it helps a ton.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So take us through the fight, NewLine Cagefighting. They've last year, I think it was, they had a fight down in Morgantown, a little bit below Morgantown, Clarksburg. I forget where it was, but I went. I know they're mainly in Kentucky. So walk us through the fight itself. Short fight. You made it a finish in the first round, but walk us through that fight, that first round.
Yeah, so like the research done on him told me that he was like primarily a grappler. Um I knew he had a brown belt. I knew he was a brown belt for like a while. Luke Martin had actually trained with him before he came to Stout, so he kind of gave me a little bit of inside on him as well. Just like his tendencies, what he likes to do, stuff like that, how he fights, how he grapples. Um so like having known all that, I watched what I could on him. He had like a bunch of kickboxing fights recently. I knew he would just kind of walk forward and like just be tough. He had never been finished in his kickboxing or his MMA fights. He never been finished. And I had uh, uh, a pro kickboxer who had fought him in kickboxing said that like you'll gas yourself trying to knock him out. Like he's tough as shit. So like that being in my head, I was like, okay, don't start the fight just ripping bombs and like, gassing yourself trying to do that. So the first like 5 seconds, I was just kind of feeling him out, and I saw him start to walk towards me, and I let a jab overhand go, and he pressed into me. I don't think he wanted any of that, and he pressed into me to try and close the distance and start grappling with me. And I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I threw like a super short like uppercut up through the middle, and it turned his head. And then when that happened, he wouldn't let go of me. So like he wanted to stay in that clinch. He was trying to go in that like that over under like kind of Greco lock grip that the commentary was saying. And then we just got up on the cage, and I threw a knee up to his face. The commentary said it hit his elbow. It hit him right on like the side of the head. I felt it on my knee. And then he was trying to split the other way. I went to try and ankle pick him, and it turned his hips, and then I just ran the pipe on him.
Right.
I was kind of stuck, like when like BJJ guys like sit down to their butt and they're like trying to fish for a neck, and they're like kind of waiting to see which way you're gonna put your head. So I just stayed right in the middle because he had no pressure like under my chin. I just stayed right up the middle, and I ran up popping my head out, and then went to like kind of half guard, and I trapped his arm under my knee, landed some ground and pound shots. And then when he was working his way back up, he went to build up, and I just found his neck. And I won my title with Art of War with the same like kind of standing guillotine. Like I feel like I have a pretty good standing guillotine, so I believe in it. And then if I know when I have it, like if I can see my own hand on the other side of your head, so once I knew I had it, I just rock the baby, and it's done.
Yeah, I mean, for people that I think it's a great position. It's kind of like a front. I mean, this is not BJJ technique, but it's kind of like a front rear naked choke in the sense that when a rear naked choke, if you can get your arm all the way up and through, you've got, it's basically finished. Same thing, you put it on like it's going to come all the way through, and then you grab it up. You stood up. He tapped very quickly. The commentary called that kind of the John Jones, which makes sense, right? Because he finished was it Chael Sonnen up against the cage with that? I think it was. He
finished Leo on the cage too.
He finished Leo the Cheetah kind of like mounted up against the cage with the high standing high guillotine. So it's a great submission. A lot of MMA, even striking, but particularly jiu-jitsu and MMA, it's really what you go for, right? A lot of what is common is because people go for it. Obviously guillotines are common, but they're typically used defensively. You use yours more offensively in the sense that you weren't really like defending a takedown in that sense. And and I think that's where placement of it can go a long way, like your timing of it. So overall, what was your experience like? New Line Cagefighting, now you're 5-3. You're a very well-established amateur. Obviously, you picked up some losses, but you picked up an Art of War title. I personally think when you have as many fights as you have before you go pro, whenever that is, you've experienced ups and downs. You've already experienced some of the emotions of it. So what do you think about where you are as a 5-3 advanced amateur?
Yeah. With like you said, like I've experienced a lot of like I mean I took some hard losses, like I know you were there for one of them. I lost to Jake Zach at the Meadows. I had that place. I had a lot of people there to come see me, and like I just did not perform that night. And that's hard to deal with. And then I come back, bounce back, and win the Art of War title. And then I get an opportunity to fight for another title, and I'm winning that fight until I'm not. I don't know if you watched that either, but like I live and die by the sword. I got caught in a standing guillotine. But like that's hard to take too. Like I feel like I was about to like really set myself apart as an amateur and be like, okay, I got 2 titles in 2 different weight classes for 2 different promotions. Like I'm doing well. So that was hard to take too. So, but I've never lost 2 in a row. I don't know what it is about it, but I've never lost 2 in a row. So I come back, I bounce back. I kind of learned how to deal with like those, those ups and downs. Um, so yeah. And then fighting for NewLine was cool, man. Like I love that big cage. It's like, that's great for me. I fight well in space. So they're cool. Keith is a super cool dude. He's a stand-up dude. If he says he's gonna do something for you, he does it. Um, you know, and he does it quickly. So I love that stuff. Like straight shooter. It just sucks you have to go to Kentucky, but I don't mind it. I don't mind driving a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. We were talking off air. I think with all the positives that you said, if you want to talk about it, you can. If not, but we were talking off air about how the color commentator. And I've been a color commentator for 247. You just got to go with what comes to your head. It's
Mhm.
very live. But as you were finishing the fight, and maybe a second before your opponent tapped out, he was saying that it was a terrible decision for you to go for the standing guillotine. Obviously, you don't know that at the time, but when you look back, does that kind of make you feel better? That like it didn't look great maybe to somebody, but it was still a way that you got the win.
Yeah, and I think when I first rewatched it back in the car last night, I was like, dang, like they were, they were pretty biased towards him. But maybe it was because of his I mean, he is a pretty high level grappler, and he has his brown belt that he's had for years, and he has an MMA win by Twister. Like not many people pull off a Twister. So like I think they probably had all that prior knowledge and were like, have seen him fight a lot and like him, and they're his guy, or he's their guy. So in that sense I do get it, but like you said, like there's different ways to say something. Like me, you know, what kind of upsets me about that, like them saying, oh, this is a terrible mistake, and oh, he doesn't want to be here. It's like, if you're in my head at that time, like I controlled every second of that fight. Like there was not 1 second of that fight where he's like dictating what's happening. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're like kind of questioning like my decision making in there, and like obviously my decision making got me to the win. So like
Yeah.
it makes you kind of sound like you don't know what you're talking about, maybe. Um, but I do understand it in the sense of like they got their guy. This is my first time there. They don't know who I am. But yeah, it is like kind of a little frustrating to listen to, because it's like, you know, when like I understood when Sean O'Malley was always like upset with DC when he would like say stuff about like half kicks, and like, it's like you're just maybe you just have to say something, so you're saying something, like I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean,
um
I'm sure somebody can watch back one of the fights I did commentate for. I mean, you are talking for about. I'm not making an excuse. You are talking for 4 hours.
yeah.
I know, having watched that fight because you posted it to YouTube, that my brain did not go with the commentary that he had said. My brain would have said something like, "Oh, this is a big move. Like, let's see what he can do with this."
Mhm.
Or always he's doing this. And if they knew your record, you had two standing. Well, at the time, you had one standing guillotine win. I mean, but I can see if you're a well-established brown belt, tapping to a standing guillotine is probably a low percentage, right? That probably doesn't happen a ton for a guy at his level. I think that just makes it better for what you were doing. It also is what, honestly, and I still watch pro boxing. I mean, Jake Paul's going to be fighting Mike Tyson. Yay.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I still watch pro boxing. At the end of the day, pro boxing is super exciting. But there's only two weapons you can use. I mean, maybe you could throw in a little ear biting if you're Mike Tyson, but realistically, there's only two weapons. I think with MMA, there's countless ways to go about it. So your submission, um, the professor or something. I'm trying to think. Ryan Hall in MMA, who was going for all the BJJ rolls and heel hooks. That's not a style of MMA that's going to work for a lot of people, right? Where he's basically playing a jiu-jitsu bottom game. Now he got knocked out once, so it doesn't always work, but like it's working for him. You can't say that's a terrible idea when it's working as well as it is, but it's a style I wouldn't necessarily teach somebody, okay, let's roll into being on the bottom all the time. Like, let's start every fight that way. But if it's winning, it's winning. And I think that's why MMA is always developing, because just like there's different boxers where you only have two weapons, have different game plans. Your game plan is a bit more offensively motivated. Like I personally think using a power guillotine, or they call it the John Jones guillotine, offensively instead of defensively is genius. I think that's an advancement. We've seen John Jones do it. I think that's an advancement in MMA.
Yeah, like when I see like that's not something I'll just like go for if I see like an opening for it. Like if I'm rolling with people, I usually try and hunt the neck. Like if I'm in a half guard position, or like if I'm like, just in certain positions where you can like try and go for the neck, like I don't mind it, because one or two things are going to happen. They're going to react to it because they have to, and I'm going to go somewhere else, or they're not going to react in time and I just snatched your neck up. Now it's too late. So um yeah, like I have a different thought process. It's like, okay, oh, he has his guillotine, like, oh, him standing up is like a terrible idea. Well, in my head, I think going to my back's a terrible idea with the guillotine, because what happens if he pops his head out? Now I'm on my back.
Yeah.
Like I want to be the other way. I'd rather stand up with the guillotine. If I for some reason can't finish it, now I'm on my feet. Now I'm cool. So
Yeah, I personally think that's part of the development in MMA. Being on your back with a guillotine in jiu-jitsu, fine. And obviously a lot of people use guillotine off your back in MMA. I don't recommend that. When I was coaching MMA, what I would recommend to somebody, if they were on their back, let's say full guard, so you still got control of your opponent, full guard, guillotine. If you're not getting it, if you can't stretch him, ski jump your hips up. If you can't stretch him, I always would teach them. It's a really simple sweep. I know you know it, right? There's a guillotine sweep because they can't block to the side. Like they have a side where they can't block to. So guillotine sweep. We saw the Diaz brothers do this even when they were winning by guillotine. They would roll to be on top and finish the guillotine on the top. One, it makes it tighter from the top. Two, even halfway through the roll, you get on top, you can let the head out. Now you're in mount. So personally, and also hats off to Justin the General Patton for winning by Von Prue choke, Von Flu choke. I like to call it Von Prue because of OSP, but there's the Von Prue where you'll see that happen, where the mindset, gets locked in on a guillotine. They're on their back, start holding on to the guillotine. The person fights off their legs, splits the guard, gets out. At that point, you got to let go of the guillotine, and people will forget that. They'll forget that. Oh, actually, yeah, they'll forget that. And also, if their head pops out, they'll still. No, it's the legs. If you clear the legs out and the head's in, then you can do walk the arm up and get the Von Prue. So, and hats off to Justin General getting that before. And it's just a simple thing where people forget that the guillotine isn't all about the squeeze if you're on your back. It's really about the legs. If you don't have the leg control, if they can get off to the right side, to the correct side, you're now in a really bad choke. How often do you use the Von Prue? Is that something you go to if people are using the guillotine defensive? That's more of if they pull it on you defensively.
yeah, like I will go there. Like actually, if you watch my first 247 fight, I almost hit a Von Flu choke. I was just a white belt at the time, so I didn't know like how to finish it. But I had like I was in the position to finish it. I just didn't know how to finish it yet. So I do look for that. Like if I know that my head's on the right side and they're still hanging on to my head,
Yeah.
like I will go for it, because you're saying like at that point you have to let it go. Like you might not be able to let it go because I have your hands locked. So like
Yeah.
it's actually you're stuck.
Well, you do
But
have a point there. You do have a point there.
yeah,
If you clamp down on it. In fact, OSP's one of his 4 Von Prues in the UFC at 205. He actually, I think on his 3rd or 4th one, he actually picked the guy's arm and put it around his neck for it. The guy wasn't even going for a guillotine. You should really find that one. And he just puts it in there because once he gets it locked in and clamps down on it, the guy can't pull his arm out. So you have a point there. A lot of it in jiu-jitsu is that chess move of 3 or 4 moves in advance, right? Because you're right. If somebody, it's not as simple as just saying let it go. It's more, you got to think ahead. If you're losing this position, you got to free your arm before. But yeah, you're right. It's a great thing. Now that you are back in the win column, you talked about not ever having 2 fights lost in a row. What do you want next? What's the next plan for you? I know 247's got a big card coming up back at the Meadows, April 20th. Is that something you want to get on to? Advanced amateur fight, you're 5-3, or what are your thoughts on what's next for you?
So, before this fight was even like done, or like we agreed to do it, I wanted to make my pro debut in June. So, I did this fight with NewLine. I wanted to come like see how they operated and like fight for Keith and just basically get another fight in before I turn pro. And then I was going to turn pro June 29th. They said it when they announced me, actually, that I'll be making my pro debut June 29th. So that's the plan. I'm not going to announce who it is yet or the opponent. But it will be June 29th for New Line in Bridgeport, West Virginia. So that'll be my pro debut.
Great, great. Well, congrats on the pro debut being announced. Yeah, you don't say the name if that part's not public knowledge. Bridgeport, I think that's where they had it last time. So hopefully I can make that fight. So just as far as now that this interview is about your wrap up, since your pro fight is going to be happening June 29th, that's awesome. What do you think you've learned about yourself? And what are some of kind of the takeaways now that you're wrapping up the chapter of amateur?
Oh man, it's like first and foremost, like the journey is super cool when I look back on it. Like there's obviously some times when like it's like you think you're done or you're like, what am I doing? It's like hard. You have some major setbacks, you take some bad losses, but you learn from all of it. And it's so like cliche and corny to say, but like if you look back at those times, like they're very formative, like they help you like grow. So yeah, man, I'm very grateful for all the wins, all the losses, all the lessons taught, all the people that I've trained with in both gyms, Bauer House and Stout. I have lifelong friends from both of them. I'm very blessed and appreciative to be where I'm at right now in Pittsburgh with Stout. I have great friends like that. Friends for life. Like Lucas would do anything for me. Luke Martin, great dude, would do anything. Tim Bailey, Tim Moriarty, Britt, Miguel, like all those guys. Like I'm super close to them. I text them all the time. I talk to them every day. So I'm super grateful for where I'm at right now. Coach Mike and Coach Will are awesome. They're like just encyclopedias of MMA and striking and grappling. Like you can never learn enough from them. So I look forward to going to practice every day. Because of my experience and the people that I've met along the way, I'm able to make money teaching at Stout. It's become an income for me. So like, I'm just super grateful and blessed to be in the position that I'm in. And I'll take these lessons in MMA, become a good professional, see how far I can take it. And if, one day I can't fight anymore, which is going to happen at some point, I've had a lot of great lessons that I can take with me in life from the sport. So yeah, the overall thoughts of my amateur career were, just blessed and grateful that I'm even able to do it in the first place.
Yeah, what an incredible journey you've been on. Congrats on turning pro. We'll leave your thoughts on the pro rounds and the pro rules till when I have you on in June. Once your fight's announced and all that, because we'll do a whole show just on you talking about the pro ranks, making it and all that. So for now, enjoy, winning your last amateur MMA fight. It's always been an honor having you on throughout your amateur career. Can't wait to follow you throughout your pro career, just like I'm doing with Luke Siebert, having him on for his amateur career, now following his pro career. It's going to be great. And you mentioned your coaches, Coach Mike and Coach Will. Shout out to them. They have recently started a YouTube channel podcast that I love listening to called Trust Your Coaches. Like you said, they literally are encyclopedias of MMA, and it's great. It's great for the mindset. They also did a great recap of the LFA 247 back-to-back event, blow by blow, kind of what they were coaching, what they were doing. So you're in great hands there at Stout, a great gym, great coaches. For people that want to learn more about what coaches think about and how they do stuff, subscribe to the Trust Your Coaches podcast. Can't believe somebody hadn't already taken that. So hats off to them. using that because I think that's just a great name for a podcast and YouTube channel. So trust your coaches, specifically Coach Will and Coach Mike. So
Listen
thanks.
to your
What?
It's called Listen to Your Coaches.
Even better. You know what
Yeah.
would be a better, YouTube channel name, Houndog? Listen to your coaches.
Yeah.
Would be better. See, that's what happens when I didn't take note. I was just going off the top of my head, but listen to your coaches is even better. Shout out to Coach Mike and Coach Will. Thanks so much, Houndog, for making MMA Fancast a part of your amateur career. Can't wait to have you back on as a pro. Best skills to you. Best wishes. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'll be back. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You got it, brother.